Hey there, so I've got this 2017 BMW X5. You see what I've done here is I actually smucked the side of my mirror against my garage. So I'm going to take you through trying to replace this section and this section. So I think what's going to happen first is we're going to just basically lift this out, and I should be able to lift the mirror itself. So I was able to just get my hand behind there and just lift. And you see here that I've got a glass that just popped off. So you just want to just sort of release these snap tabs, and then I'll disconnect these heated wires and the connector there. So and then we'll take you through the next step. Tape there and just kind of matched it with silver, that silver tab there. And obviously there's the connector that'll sit in that seat. I've just disconnected there. I think this is for the heated mirror, so that probably doesn't matter what the polarization is, but you'll see there, pretty easy. So on the back of the mirror, it looks like there's all these little snap tabs around the ring that just sort of clamp in to the outside of the motor here. So that should be pretty easy to get back on. I'm sort of figuring it out as we go. What's nice is that I can also see this glass. What I bought was a new bezel, and you'll see the bezel here. So now you can see where the snap tabs are going to be. So there'll be a snap in there as well as a snap in there. So I'll make sure that that is indeed it, and those snaps will hold in this outside painted piece. So I'll work from the inside to get that out, and hopefully that's all I need to do to replace these items. So that is indeed the case. So there's a snap here that you can see that flex. Then there's a snap here that I'm going to flex out of position. So it does look like there's only two pieces holding that in. I might get into a screw or two here, but I think this should do it. So I'm just going to work away at these two snaps. I guess conceivably, if you just wanted to replace this painted piece, you could probably just try to lift this off. I think this is probably just a cleaner way to do this. So I'm going to do that. So actually, this is what you're working against. So you've got a snap tab really tight in between the two. So what I've got to do here, which I'm going to do off camera, is obviously I have to get a screwdriver to separate these two pieces from each other, because the plastic tab is then sitting like where the screwdriver is. So I've got to try to kind of wedge that snap out of the way so that I can then just push the piece out of the way. So I'll see how this goes. Okay, so that's what I was doing there, exactly what you have to do. So you see you've got one tab here, a second tab here, and that was wedged into that one part there and second part here. So what I did was I just sort of got this little screwdriver thing sort of past here, just sort of held it open and then pulled outward, and I was able to get that piece off. So there we go. So on to the next step. So there's the back of the motor. So I've got to obviously replace, put this piece back in. I've got to replace this, and I've got to replace my turn signal. Okay, so I've just removed the first screw. It's starting to move on me. So I just used a T10 Torx. You can see it's starting to move on me. So I'm just going to remove each of the other Torx screws, and the whole assembly, I would imagine, would come off. So I've just removed all those T10 Torx screws and just sort of left it off. And there you go. I'll go ahead and put that new cover back on. It doesn't really matter that these tabs are bent out of place, because I've got a new bezel. So the beautiful thing about being able to replace everything and having the new parts, you can see there's going to be one screw there and one screw there. So that is one screw here, and I believe that's one screw there. So I'll go ahead and do that off camera. Okay, that was just a couple more screws than I expected. So this whole bottom cover has to come off. And then you can see here, so what you've done is you've just disconnected this. You sort of swung this out. I was sitting up inside there. And so what you've got to do now is now take the screw off there. And I've already taken that end screw off. And then obviously disconnect the connector to get the new piece back on. So here we go, a new piece is on and flush. The only real friction fit was there in that middle tab. So I'll go ahead and screw that thing back together. So I've just been fussing with this for a couple minutes. A little bit of German engineering here. Make sure that this tab goes into that end hole, and then everything will just swing right into place. So then we'll put those screws on this side. I'll work it onto the assembly like I took it off, and then get the screws inserted from the front. Okay, so far so good. It's going as planned. Got the connector back attached. I just reattached 1, 2, 3 screws. Everything's on there nice and tight. Happy with that. So here we go. I'm gonna get the bezel on, and I'm just gonna work it around. There's a snap over here. It looks like you have to hook in. And then there are some snaps you can see down inside this housing portion in the bottom. So I'll push those together and then put the screws back in. Okay, so that worked well. I was able to get that piece hooked in and snapped. The 4 screws, pulled the wires through. So then I'm ready to connect that. And then I'll snap that back piece in a minute. Okay, so I've got the bezel on, and I've got the mirror wires back attached. And it looks like what I need to make sure I need to do is line up these little locators, here, and line it up with those locators there. So I'll go ahead and, because this thing sort of pushes and rotates around, that's your motor. So I'm just basically gonna, off camera, I'm gonna sort of line that up and push that into place, snap. And that is exactly what happened. So she's in there nice and firm. I can move this, make sure the wires are well connected. So now we'll go ahead and take this piece, and I'm just gonna take it and sort of slide it forward, lining up that tab and that tab with this snap and this snap, and I hope that's it. Before I go ahead and snap everything together, it looks like this is probably the most critical piece. So there's a couple of locators and snaps on the bottom, and they will line up with these guys just above the light turn signal, that hole there. So what I'll do is I'll just sort of walk it in there, make sure I get located, slowly walk in the tabs along the side. So there are tabs along the sides here. And I'll just take my time with it, just walk it in slowly. And I would imagine this big friction part is going to be the probably where the spot where you'll hear the big snaps take place. Okay, so I've got it about 80% on. So the key is to just walk this corner in first, and then sort of walk the bottom in. It's not in yet. And because I tried to go to this side first, and this side was just hanging out, so I had to pull it back off. And I should be able to just sort of, yeah, there we go. Everything just kind of snapped into place. So we're good, nice and secure. And there you go. There's your replacement of your X5 side view mirror. A couple snaps not in, so I'm gonna fix that again. So just make sure. So I'll just pop that off a little bit. Should be okay. A little bit, and the snaps came out quite easily. So there you go. There you have it. Everything's back together. And just as one last check, just make sure you do your electrical check. You can see that light bar is working perfectly, and everything looks good. The mirror is moving, so you can see that. Up, down, left, right. All right, so good luck with yours.